Welcome to That Entrepreneur Life, a podcast about entrepreneurship that takes you from idea to launch and beyond. Each week, your hosts, Andrew Lees and 𝗫𝗏𝗄𝗏 discuss different business topics aimed at adding value to any entrepreneur's journey.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of That Entrepreneur Life. I'm 𝗫𝗏𝗄𝗏, and today I'll be flying solo. Unfortunately, Andrew can't be with us, but we're going to have fun anyway. But before I dive right into and introduce our special guest today, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to our podcast and to our mailing list or our website so that you don't miss out on all the free resources we have to help you start and grow your business. Now, we've got a very special guest on the show today. She's an entrepreneur, author, professional speaker, and host of More Than a Few Words, a weekly marketing conversation for business owners. She brings creative ideas, practical tips, and decades of real-world experience to every conversation. With that said, I'd like to welcome our special guest today, Lorraine Ball, to the show. How are things going?
Just awesome. Thank you so much for having me today.
No, it's a pleasure. Every guest we've had on the show has brought their own special perspective, and just the way they look at things. It's just, even though we're entrepreneurs, we can all relate to each other, even though our journey is different. And because we know at some point in our journey, again, we can relate and we've been there to some degree, might not be exactly, but we're like, I know what you're talking about. And so that's why I love it. And that's why I welcome you warm-heartedly to the show. And I really appreciate it.
I've been an entrepreneur myself for almost 20 years, and I've worked with lots of companies. And you're absolutely right when you say that the journey is different. But I have found that whether I'm working with a plumber or a coach or somebody with this great tech idea, there are steps that you go through and you experience them differently, but you still got to get over that same step, no matter what kind of business you're in.
Exactly. And I always tell people, it's like, we get thrown so much at us, the shiny object syndrome, the hurdles, the obstacles, but it's how you react to it, right? How do you learn how to pivot? How do you learn how to sidestep? How do you learn how to make that clutter that's just all around us on a daily basis, like all the time? It always seems like when you're sitting down to get something done, that's when somebody wants to talk to you. That's when an email comes through that, somebody's wanting to get a hold of you or trying to sell you something. And it just like, if you don't shut those things off and dedicate specific parts of time to that single thing that you're trying to achieve, it makes life so miserable.
I always used to think, I multitask. I can get everything done. If this is due at 4:00 today, I don't care how long you think it's going to take me. It'll be done at 4. And it does get done. But I have found that if I will turn off my email, oh my God, I even turn off my cell phone and I put it in a drawer for an hour. And I start to get a little antsy because I'm looking for the device, but I can focus and I can get things done. And it's a matter, I think, of looking at, this is everything on my list, but what's the one thing I have to do today that's going to move my business forward? And don't leave that for the end of the day and do all this busy work. Get that first thing and let the other stuff fall in after that.
Yeah. And I love that. And Lorraine, like you just mentioned, you've been an entrepreneur for 20 some odd years. And as a serial entrepreneur, can you take us back to when your entrepreneurial journey actually started and what it is specifically about entrepreneurship that really gets you fired up and keeps you moving forward today?
So, I'm smiling because very, very early in my career, I was working for a small business. And so when I went back to grad school, I thought, that's what I want to do because they are really screwed up. And I really want to help them and other companies like them do better. And then I got very enamored with big company marketing and, all of that stuff. And so for a while, that was really where my focus was. But I had an opportunity when I was in corporate to put together a program that would generate revenue. And here I was inside this large company, and I built out this little entrepreneurial venture based on an idea that I had, and we sold it and we made money. And it paid for itself, and it paid for the people who were on my team doing the work. And I'm like, this is fun.
Yeah.
This is cool that I can develop an idea, see a way to take it to the market and actually make it profitable. And because it was sort of this little skunkworks project, everybody else kind of left me alone. And I wasn't really answerable to anybody else. And nobody ever thought it was going to work. So nobody really cared. And by the time they figured out that it was working, I had figured out that I liked that. And so we parted ways and I kind of went off and took what I learned inside that larger corporation to start the business that was my first true entrepreneurial venture.
That's great. I mean, and that brings up a good point, because you talked about finding something and then discovering something that you basically loved, right? And it gave you that passion to move forward with it. Nobody was in your way, and it was up to you to make it successful, right? Ultimately, you had to put in the work to get it to where it was for you to move on from that larger corporate job. But at the end of the day, how important do you think it is to, as an entrepreneur, surround yourself or dig down deeper and peel back the layers of something that you actually do love? Because I think sometimes people love the idea of a business and then they get into it and they're working it so much that they're like, oh, I don't know if I really love this. It sounded good because maybe it was easy at the time, or because things on their mind, it just came natural. But then they start doing it and it's like, I don't think I could do this forever.
So I think there's a couple of buckets there. I think there are people that want to be business owners, but don't necessarily want to be entrepreneurs. And those people do really well in a franchise, buying into a business, stepping into something that someone else has started. And there's nothing wrong with that. And over time, you put your own kind of fingerprint on it. But I think of those as business owners, but I don't necessarily think of them as entrepreneurs. I think an entrepreneur is someone who has an idea that is really unique to them. And you kind of had a couple of different ideas bundled up in there.
Right.
One of the things that you sort of touched on and then moved away from is this idea of surrounding yourself with other people. And I think that is the most valuable thing that I did even before I started. I reached out to a half a dozen people that I knew who had left corporate, who had gone out on their own, who had taken an idea and turned it into a business. And I sat down with each of them and I'm like, okay, what did you do? How did you do it? What do you like? What don't you like? And I got a lot of good advice so that when I was ready to start, I kind of knew what I was getting into. And then once the business was up and running, that next step is recognizing when it's time to hire somebody, maybe not full time, but hire someone to do some of the stuff that you don't like or you're just not good at.
Right.
And then the hardest thing is hiring people to do things that you do like and you are good at. Right. It was easy for me to hire an IT company because I did not want to crawl around under my desk. That's not how I want to spend my days. And it was easy to hire an admin to do typing and filing and bookkeeping, but hiring someone else to do content marketing for one of my clients, or hiring someone else to do copywriting, because that was what I did.
Right.
And then looking at it and being able to say, you know what? It isn't the way I would have done it, but it's not wrong.
Right.
And so, so there's those different phases of who do you have to bring in? And if you find yourself, somebody once told me, if you are spending more than 50% of your day doing things that you don't love, that's sucking all your energy, you need to rethink whether or not you're in the right business.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And I like that. I really like, because it makes you think, right? It gets you to step back and think about it. And and it's just like, I think we all know that you have to hire somebody to do something that you don't like, but I know how hard it can be, because it was hard for me, right? Because when you're in the process, when you're a new entrepreneur, or when you're somebody that's just getting in the game, and okay, you're trying to learn, right? You're trying to learn all the steps and trying to make a roadmap for success. And then you start getting bogged down in things you don't like. And then you're just like, okay, I got to learn it. But I really think learning it and really doing it is two different things, right? Because you want to be able to hold the other person accountable, that if you hire them, right, or give them an SOP of, hey, this is how if it was me, I would do it again because maybe your way is not wrong, but this is the only way I know how to do because this is what I learned. So it's really, I really think it comes down to trust, right? Like how can you build that trust with that person that you hire? So you feel comfortable to where you're not micromanaging them, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs can get into the micromanaging stage. And I know somebody on the other end, they probably hate that.
Well, they hate, and they hate that. And I loved one of the other things that you said is you need to learn it, but you don't have to do it. I actually got to a place in the business where I was hiring people who were way better at certain things than I was. My graphic designer can design just circles around me.
Right.
I'm a production artist. She's a designer. I know enough to appreciate the quality of her work. I know enough to know about how long a good designer should take to do it. And then I let her go because I also know that she is way better at it than I am.
Right.
Same thing with my social media team now. I know what it needs to be and I can brainstorm with them. And then I get out of the way because they've got a system for cranking out the nuts and bolts that I don't have the patience for. I don't have the discipline. It's not my happy place.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I love that. And I really think that, again, as leaders and individuals, we need to learn how to delegate, right? And the greatest leader is the one who can delegate properly and also get the message across to why they're doing it and why they're all in the same canoe rowing in the same direction, right? It's really communication at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of particularly young or new managers or new business owners that haven't kind of lived through some of that think that they need to be out in front to be managing and leading. And really, great managers and great leaders are underneath. They are supporting their team. When I was in corporate, my job was simply to move obstacles out of the way. If somebody on my team said, I'm trying to do this and here's where I'm stuck, my job was to get them unstuck so they could do what they needed to do. It wasn't for me to go in and do it for them, but it's like, okay, if this is your sticking point, you don't have this resource, you don't have this tool, the client is being a pain in the insert whatever descriptive you want right here. My job is to jump in and go, okay, this is where the problem is. Let's get it out of the way. Now you good? Great. And I can go on to the next thing. And I think when you begin to understand that that's really your job is to set the vision, to figure out where the business is going, to make sure that everybody gets it, that everybody's on the same page, that you're communicating regularly. Look, guys, this is what we're trying to do. And this is how you fit. And then get out of the way and let them do what you hired them to do.
For sure. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I love that perspective. So as a digital marketing strategist yourself, and you work alongside or work with as a marketing strategist, Digital Toolbox, right? Or Roundpeg, which has a website, right? A Digital Toolbox.
So here's the thing. Roundpeg was my original business. You said, serial entrepreneur. Yep. I started the agency 19 years ago. I spent a lot of time training my clients because a lot of times they would come to us and they didn't really even know enough about digital marketing to ask the right questions, to evaluate what we were doing, to really give us what we needed to do good work for them. I started going back to my roots as a teacher, started developing a lot of training material. And 2 years ago, we split up the two businesses.
Okay.
Roundpeg is the digital agency. Digital Toolbox is an online community, webinars, seminars, resources, tools, a Facebook group designed to help early stage companies discover the questions that they need to be asking, learning the basic skills so that they can either do their own digital marketing or that they can then work with an agency. So those are two actually separate companies now.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I love that. And as I was looking into it, and you answered one of my questions as far as like, how did that work together? But as we all know, marketing moves fast, just like technology, right? And marketing in a lot of stages for small business specifically, because I have a passion for small businesses, it moves fast and it's hard for that small business owner to stay current with all the rapid changes that occur, regarding digital marketing and still run their business at the same time. I mean, can you pull back the curtains for us and let us know why it's important for small businesses to find a way to stay up to date on the tools, trends, and changes that occur throughout the digital landscape? Because at the end of the day, like, I think Digital Toolbox and what I was looking at today is a way for them, to bridge that gap and help them grow.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing, and even let's jump back pre-pandemic, the world is going digital. 15 years ago, I was teaching, maybe more, maybe 20 years ago, when I first started, I was teaching at the university level, and I asked my students, so how many of you are going to buy any of your Christmas gifts online? And, 2 or 3 people put their hand up. And a year later, everybody in the room, when I asked the same question, said, oh yeah, I'm going to do at least some of my shopping online. And I have watched over that, that last 20 years, how that has shifted. And now, everything is moving online and all sorts of things are there. And so for pretty much any business, any industry, your customers are online. When they are looking for a product or service that you offer, the first place they're going to go is Google, Yelp, Facebook, Instagram, depending on the product.
Right.
And if you're not there, and if you're not there in a way that fits with that community, they're going to skip over you. And the challenge is that the rules keep changing.
Yeah.
So just about the time you think, okay, I've got it, I've got my Facebook campaigns, I'm doing this kind of advertising, Apple rolls out iOS 14 that shuts down some of the data that's going to Facebook. Yeah. And Facebook changes their algorithm. And so all of a sudden, the information you were relying on to make good decisions has changed. And if you're not keeping up with that, what you're going to see is the ads that used to drive 30 people a week to your website are now driving 3.
Right.
And you don't know why, because you're still spending the same money. And so, on the one hand, staying up with the trends helps you figure out where you need to be next. But it's also a matter of your next customer is sitting at home going, you know what? I need this. And I have no idea where to find this, but I'm going to go to Google and type in, who can give me this?
Right.
And you're either there or you're not when they go looking for you.
Exactly. And I think that's a very good point. I mean, I think businesses, small businesses in general, business owners need to know that even when you hire somebody to do something, a lot of this stuff is, whether it's running ads, which you have to be consistent at, right? And you have to have an actual end state to what you're trying to achieve, and why you're running an ad to that specific product or service. But I really think it's coming down for the business owners to really know who their avatar, right? That key target demographic that they're aimed at. And there's so many small businesses specifically that don't know that information. Because they've been a small business for so long to where they've been relying on traditional marketing. That traditional marketing is like, one, getting a little more expensive to them, but also like they're throwing money at it because it's like, hey, I just need to throw more into this because it worked for me in the past. And then transitioning that, it's hard for them to let go of something that worked in the past to now where they're not seeing results. But then if they hire somebody and they do them a service for one time, like, hey, I'm gonna create a Facebook post for you, right? Some business owners don't know that. That's just organic. It's not gonna, unless you have a lot of followers, it's not gonna reach many people, especially if you don't have a lot of engagement on your page. And 2, it's just like, you got to know there has to be a content strategy, and just a marketing strategy in general that a lot of them overlook and don't think about, right?
Absolutely. I think, and I kind of want to go back to something that you said, that's really important. It's that idea of a target customer, what you call the avatar. A lot of times business owners are concerned because they're afraid if they go too narrow, they're like, well, but this person could spend money with me and this person could spend money. And the answer is, yeah, they could. But how easy or hard is it to reach that person? And one of the examples I always give is lava soap. Okay. This soap is designed to take grease off your hands.
Right.
The target customer is blue collar mechanic, or what I call the blue collar hobbyist, the person who's got a white collar job Monday through Friday, but on the weekends likes to work on cars, likes to get greasy. So Lava understands their customer, and they direct all their advertising at primarily men, primarily blue collar. They are the official soap of NASCAR, right?
Right.
My friend Denise loves to work on cars. She's 60 years old, and she gets out in her garage every Saturday, and she's under her cars, and this is her happy place.
Right.
She has Lava soap, but Lava does not spend any money trying to target 60-year-old women who like to work on cars, because it's such a small subsegment. They'd just be wasting their money. So what they do is they focus on their core, and people like Denise find them. And every business needs to understand that. You need to target the center of your circle. Yes, you will sell to other people.
Right.
But you don't have the money. You don't have the bandwidth to go after all those people on the fringe. And so really figuring out who my customer is and where they hanging out.
Yeah.
And being, I think, really careful. Instagram versus Facebook. Facebook, 35 and up. Instagram, 35 and under. If you're in a home service industry, your customers, if you're a plumber or roofer, your customers are still on Facebook.
For sure.
5 years from now, maybe not.
Right.
What I see a lot of is a lot of younger marketing professionals, because Instagram is their comfort level. They're in that 25 to 35 range. They want to push their customers onto Instagram because that's where they're comfortable, even though their customers aren't on Instagram. They're still on Facebook.
Right.
And so, as a business owner, you have to be looking at who's my target customer. Number one, where are they hanging out? And number two, where are they going to be responsive to my message? Yes, there are 25-year-old homeowners out there, and they do have Instagram accounts. Do they really want to see a photograph of a clogged drain sandwiched in between those two beautiful food pictures? No! So stop trying to crash a party where you just don't belong.
Yeah. No, I agree with that sentiment 100%. I really think, again, it's the fear of losing out for some of these business owners when you tell them, hey, we need to narrow this down. Because when I go in and I sit down with clients, I earn trust quick because I'm honest and I'm straightforward. And I just let them know, like, look, for us to have the most success for your business, we need to narrow this down. You cast such a wide web, we're going to waste so much money that it's not even, at the end of the day, if we look at it, you might get some quick results, but are those really the right people? And so I have plenty of examples where I've done that for people that are trying to franchise, individuals that are selling something specific, like solar power companies, where it's like, hey, we want to sell to everybody. But I'm like, okay, hey, what is your target demographic? Who are we going after? Is it the people that have the money? Is it the people within it? You got to really peel back and really know the person you're selling to. Like, if you were to say, like, who is your ideal client? Like, what's their name? How old they are. And it could be even segmented to age ranges. But they're so scared that if they do that and they put a face on that thing, that they're going to lose everybody around. Like you said, and they're not. Like, the person that you're not even targeting, they will find you. Especially if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and doing it correctly. Casting the wide web, would she have came in? Probably. But again, how much money are you wasting trying to get that one additional person? And you just don't realize, again, you're just throwing money at the wall and hoping it sticks. And it's not always a good, there's a method to our madness as digital marketers and then the business owners, but it comes down to us really educating them so they feel comfortable with, okay, I understand. And like, you saying what you did, if I presented that in front of a customer right now, they'd be like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's a matter of who's most likely to buy. And then also there's a moment, and when you're first starting out, it's hard to imagine that you'll ever get to this place. But after you've been in business for a while, stepping back and looking at your last 10 clients and asking yourself, of those 10, who was my favorite, who was my least favorite. And what we actually do this twice a year. The question is, if we could only work with 3 clients, which 3 would it be? And the reason that that's such a powerful question is when you do that, you start to look at the characteristics and you're like, okay, what do these 3 clients have in common? Why do we enjoy working with them? And conversely, if we're going to fire 3 clients, what is it about those 3 that we really didn't like? And for us, we found it was things like where they came from originally. What were their expectations coming in? And how prepared were they for the conversation? And we also identified industries. I always said I hated nonprofits. Not that I hate nonprofits. They serve a really valuable role in society. And I'm on a couple of boards, but I hated working with nonprofits because the amateur boards made me crazy. But all of a sudden, we started getting all of these websites for nonprofits, and they were good projects and everything was right. And I was like, okay, I hate nonprofits, but the last 5 clients I loved were all nonprofits. So what's going on? And we figured out what kind of nonprofits. And so we started changing our marketing to attract not just our target, but within our target, an even narrower group that we really wanted to work with. And the business becomes a lot more fun when you're doing that.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I really think that's a good approach. And I mean, really kudos to you for identifying that and with your team and really taking a step back and actually making it happen. That's great.
It also really uncovered, we had one client that 3 of my employees hated. I mean, just hated. And I had one person on the end going, well, I don't mind that client. And we're like, guess what? They're going to be your client. You're now lead on that account. We're going to give everybody a little bit of breathing room. And she's like, no, that's fine. I can do that. Because sometimes, and especially, again, when you have the luxury of a little bigger team, you will find personalities sometimes just don't connect. And, continuing to force it and say, no, Britt's the account manager. She has to handle this. No, Britt, listen, sweetie, you're going to do all the work on the back end, but I know that this person makes you crazy. So we're going to let Simon do the front end. And he'll handle the questions and you do and creating that kind of an environment where your employees can talk about that and identify when things aren't going well and why they're not going well. You build a much healthier business. No,
I love that. I mean, I really think identifying that in an early stage too in the process, especially if there's a clash going on, but you can still retain that client without firing them or getting rid of them because you do have somebody that's like, hey, I don't mind. I mean, I've interacted with them on, a dozen different occasions. I've never had a problem. So, I can step up and do that. That's awesome. That's a great way to sit there, look inside your team and pivot, right? I mean, that's a perfect example.
Well, and also some of that comes from taking some time to really learn the personalities of your team. Who are your introverts? Who are your extroverts? Who are your detail? Who are your concept people? Who need a lot of time to process information? Who can think on their feet? And it's not a matter of one is better than the other. It's really more a matter of just how are they wired? How do they receive information? How do they kind of work through and lay out their process and creating situations where each one can be successful? And I think that's, again, as the business grows, I do very little real marketing anymore because mostly what I'm doing are the creative people things. And whether it's managing the customers or managing the team, it's really dealing with the personalities.
Love that. And so you don't have to go into this next question as much if you don't want to, but this week we just recently dropped an episode on why you should focus on SEO for sustainable business growth. And so I wanted to just do a quick dive into SEO for a few minutes and talk about how important it is to have a content-driven SEO plan, because I've noticed on Roundpeg that you had an article there and that I found very interesting. And with so many technical and questionable SEO tips and tricks and approaches out there, how does a content-driven SEO approach give you a manageable roadmap to consistency to improve your overall search position?
So the first thing about a content-driven SEO plan is you almost let go of everything you've ever heard about SEO, because all the experts focus on, oh, you got to have links, you got to have keywords,
Right.
you got to have so many words per so many, and it's all very formulaic. And yeah, that has its place. But what a content SEO plan is really about is it's about answering the questions that prospective customers have. Everybody goes to Google because they have a question.
Right.
How do I do this? Why do I do this? Where do I get this? Who can sell me this? Is there someone near me who can fix this? Those questions people type into Google, and Google will search millions of pieces of content, find that answer. And if you have answered that question and you have answered it well and completely and better than anyone else, you're more likely to show up on search. And so as you start heading down this path of a content-driven SEO plan, what I really want you to do is I want you to sit down and think about your customers. What are the questions they have when they kind of think they maybe need something like what you do?
All right.
And then those are the very broad-based informational questions. And then as they learn more, now they get into that phase where a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And so now they're doing some of those comparisons. Well, I heard about this and I heard about this. So why is this better than this? What's the difference between these two things? How does this work? And so that second consideration set of questions is your next set. And then the third one is when somebody is ready to buy. How do I work with you? How will this work? What's the next step? And so once you have all of those questions, then you want to start answering.
Right.
You want to make sure that the answers to those questions are on your homepage, on a blog post, on a product page, so that when someone goes to Google and says, I'm in Indianapolis and I want to talk to someone who does this, this, and this, you show up. And you can't just cut and paste the same answer somebody else has. You have to answer it in a way that is unique to you and your business. What I often find is that if you look in your email, you will find tons of questions that your customers ask on a regular basis.
Yeah.
If you have someone who does customer service, they have all the questions. And now you start to answer them. And the beautiful thing is, the next time you get asked that question, you can send them a link to a blog post.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's perfect. I love how you answer that question. And I really think, thinking from that perspective and just making sure that you're answering the questions that people are asking, especially whether it's in your niche, whether it's a specific product, whether it's a specific service you offer. Those are very important because, again, everybody has questions. And like you said, everybody's going to Google. If you're a restaurant owner, restaurants near me, everybody's just typing stuff in. So if you can figure out a way to jump in there, like you said, and just get there so you can have a piece of the pie, and you're up there ranking or whatever it is, and you're answering those questions, you'll be found. But you also got to do it in the right way, right? Not
Absolutely.
by copying other people's words.
No. And, the funny thing is, if you go to Google and you start typing in what you think the question is, it'll auto-generate a list of related questions. And so all of a sudden, you've got 6 blog topics because now you've got 6 different questions to answer. And I want to just talk real briefly about those comparison questions. They're gold. Every one of my clients has at least one comparison blog post that we've written. And invariably, it is the best post on their website. We wrote a blog post 11 years ago. 11 years ago. What's the difference between a navy bean and a great northern white? It was for a bean company, so it was a good question.
Right.
To this day, 11 years later, that blog post gets traffic every week. Every week, people find Randall Beans because of that post. And for a while, it dropped off a little bit. Like we weren't number one.
Yeah.
So what did we do? We went back in, we added a little more information. We added a new recipe to the bottom of the page, and we are number one again.
There you go. It's just about updating it. Once things change, you want to make that piece of content stay as evergreen as possible, right? So as times change and different questions or different ways to approach that topic get brought up, it's good to go and refresh it, update it, give it a little spin. You don't start from scratch because you've already had something that was ranking, something that was getting traffic. And it's so funny because I really think a lot of people harp on when they create a piece of content, they might get down that it's not getting that much traffic, but you never know when somebody's going to stumble upon it. And like you said, 11 years later, people are still finding that article. So you never, know who it's going to resonate with, because I was talking to somebody the other day and they said they posted something like 8 years ago. Wasn't wildly successful. By no means. People were visiting it. People were reading the topic. People, started commenting on it, and it resonated with some people. And then 8 years later, he got a client from it because somebody said, "Hey, I stumbled upon this article you wrote. I love your perspective. Let's talk." And 8 years later, and the dude was like, "Whoa, that blows my mind." So you just never know when that piece of content that you actually put out, at some point in time is going to resonate with somebody and get you a client.
I have one post on my website that's about a position statement. And I think that's a really important piece of your marketing. Well, a professor at some obscure university in Minnesota found it and she liked it. And every year I can tell if she's teaching the marketing class or not, because right around the beginning of the semester, I get like 100 visits to that page. And so, by now, some of her students who read that content are 8 and 9 years into their career. And, one of them may hire us someday.
There you go. Love it. I love it. So, Lorraine, through your entrepreneurial journey, from the highs to the lows, what has been the most difficult thing about being an entrepreneur to date?
I think in the beginning, sometimes it was learning to value my time and my services. I think we often underestimate, I'm just going to do that myself, so it's not a big deal. No, your time is valuable. And so that was probably one of the hardest. And this is not really a low. This is more of a recognizing in your journey that things change along the way. Yeah. I've owned the company for 19 years. I started it. It was just me. At our height, we were at 9 people. So it was a nice sized little business. And a year and a little bit ago, somebody reached out to me and said, "What do you think? Do you want to sell?" And getting to that place where I was like, yeah, I'm ready to do something else. Right. And selling it was the easy part. I'm now in that phase where I'm kind of unbundling and letting go a little bit. Yeah. I still do consulting. I still have, clients that I talk to, but things happen and I'm like, "Oh no, we have, no, you know what? I don't know how we have to do that. That's not my problem anymore."
I love it. I think as a business owner or entrepreneur, that should be your end state to a degree, right? Figuring out an exit strategy from something that you've created and something that somebody could continue on. Because again, it will free you up because in our journeys, things change. And I'm not saying you won't be passionate about that specific thing because it was your baby at one time. But at the end of the day, how much better do you feel at the end of the day knowing that you built something that was sellable?
Absolutely.
And that you created something that you can be proud of.
Yeah. And I still work with business owners. The Digital Toolbox I kept the podcast because that was, again, it was close to my passion. Right. But I think the thing I want to say is that it takes time. I started having conversations with people 5 years before I ultimately sold and kissed a lot of frogs and had a lot of conversations with people where I thought, I don't care how much money you're going to give me. I don't want to sell you my business because my customers are going to hate you. Right. And getting to that place where you find the right match and being in a position where your business is ready to run without you.
I love that. I really think that looking at it from that angle, it shows that you truly care about the clients that you had on the other end to a degree, right? Because you're like, "Hey man, you can pay me the most money in the world, but guess what? You're not going to be running this company. So nope, next." Right. And so I love that. Again, because at the end of the day, you built a company, clients trusted you, and you do not want to put a ball in somebody else's hands that they're not going to trust and that from their personalities and what you deal with on a regular basis. Like, no, it's going to be a clash here. And what I built is going to go to nothing because of this individual that I'm selling it to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So as we wrap up this episode, Lorraine, if you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think one of the most important things to do is to carve out a little bit of time for planning. And whether you do that, whether you use one of these planners where you do it every day or every week, but you need to have that quiet time where you step back and you really look at what it is you're creating and ask yourself, am I on track? I set these goals for the year. We're 2 months in. Are we going to do it? Does that goal still make sense? And if it does, what do I need to change to get there? And make an appointment with yourself. Put it on your calendar and don't let anything interfere with that time that you have carved out. It's too easy to put it off and suddenly wake up 5 years later and realize that what you're doing is not what you want to do. And it's because you took your hand off the reins, stopped planning, and stopped driving towards a destination that you wanted to be.
I love it, because I think if you don't plan to succeed, you're planning to fail. At the end of the day, Lorraine, thanks for your time. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to joining me and adding value to what we're doing on our podcast.
Awesome. I think this is awesome. I think you guys are doing a great job. And I think that you're answering a lot of questions for people who are getting started. So keep it up. It's fun.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you all so much for listening to That Entrepreneur Life. To learn more about what Lorraine and the team over at Roundpeg are working on, check out digitaltoolbox.club. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to our podcast, and don't forget to download our free ebook about the success mindset at thatentrepreneurlife.com. Thanks for continuing to support what we do as entrepreneurs, and don't forget to join us next week for another episode of That Entrepreneur Life.
Thanks for listening to That Entrepreneur Life podcast. Be sure to visit thatentrepreneurlife.com to join the conversation, access our show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode as we continue to add value. Until next time.